Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. It is a Friday, which means we celebrate. For Donnie Rightside, that could be the end, finally, of the NBA regular season. Just 3 days left to go in the regular season. Every team in action on this Friday. Day off on Saturday. Every team in action on Sunday, with 2 more games left for all 30 NBA organizations to end out the regular season ahead of the postseason. It is round number 2 with golfers on the course at Augusta National Golf Club at the 2025 Masters Tournament. We will let you know what is happening early on cut day. But to ring in this celebratory Friday for DRS, with the NBA's regular season coming to a close, we welcome on our coach, J.Y. James Young, to put everything into perspective and set the stage for this weekend around the association. J.Y., as always, we appreciate the time.
Good morning. Happy Friday. And yeah, nothing like everybody play tonight, no one play tomorrow, and everybody play Sunday. It feels like this is like the Premier League, everybody trying to start around the same time.
It is a beautiful thing. We love action coming down to a close on the final day. And J.Y., when you look at the Western Conference standings, it is going to feel like the Premier League, or week number 18 of the NFL regular season. All 15 of our Western Conference teams are going to be playing at the same time. It is going to be really, really good action on Sunday afternoon. And as you saw there in the standings, there is still so much left to be determined. The only things we know, the Thunder, by a landslide, have clinched the 1 seed. The Rockets, as Donnie figured out yesterday with the math, have clinched the 2 seed. But what exactly are the Lakers in store for? One more win, they clinched the 3 seed. The Nuggets and the Clippers lurking. And then you see those 3 teams, 6 through 8, all at 47 and 33. The Warriors on the right side of the play-in tourney, already in the immediate postseason. And then you have the Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves, who faced off last night. J.Y., when you look at the Western Conference standings, with how jumbled and jam-packed they are, what is your favorite race to follow in the final weekend of this regular season?
I mean, to me, it's all of them, but it's about, to me, what do we do with Denver, right? Because of the firing of Michael Malone. They become the most intriguing team, Ben, because they have the best player in the world. And a player that obviously was frustrated with what went on in Denver. I mean, listen, I don't care what anybody says. He probably knew what was going on. I think he kind of admitted it as such right before it happening. So they become the team to watch, because I think they're the team with that player, with the fact that they have a championship pedigree. Where do they slide? Do they slide at 4 with 5 with the Clippers? Does Golden State jump the Clippers to 6? Does Denver drop to the 6th spot? How does that impact the Lakers? I think it's a bad matchup for the Lakers. Could they drop all the way to 7? So all these things are going to shake out in the next 48 hours. And that's why, like I said to you last week, I can't place a bet on the playoffs until I see matchups. And the one team I need to know more than anyone is, where is Denver going to be matched up with in the first round?
You know, Coach, I need to know about the Houston Rockets here. I don't think I've ever seen a more disrespected number 2 overall seed in a really good conference in my entire lifetime. 52-28, deserving of the number 2 seed. And we have the feeling, through the sports books, through just talking to people, doesn't matter who they play in round number 1, Coach, they are getting sent home, and sent home quickly. Tell me about the Rockets, the disrespect. Udoka is the head coach. What can we anticipate from them in the playoffs? Is it real, or is it fool's gold for them?
Well, you know, they got it. They kind of have like a Cleveland feel to it a little bit, in regards to everybody's going to discount what happened in the regular season because what happens in the playoffs. And if you look at all these teams that they may go against, whether if Denver slides, or it's the Clippers, or the Warriors, or the Grizzlies, or the Timberwolves, or even someone like, it wouldn't be Sacramento. Well, it wouldn't be Sacramento, because that would be with the 8th spot. They're going to be 8, so they're going to go against Oklahoma City no matter what with Dallas. But to me, it comes down to all those teams, Donnie, have playoff experience. They have playoff rosters. Now, they have Ime Udoka, who's a hell of a coach, and it's going to be disrespected. But you got to admit, the money is going to, if it's them and the Nuggets, everybody's going to run to the Nuggets. If it's the Clippers, the Clippers. The Warriors, they're going to be underdogs in every series they possibly could line up with. And it's not so much a disrespect to Houston, Donnie. It's the respect that the rest of that league is getting, that conference is getting, because of the playoff acumen that those teams all have from their previous years.
I've shared this a few times now, but with the Rockets also the 2 seed entering the All-Star break in the Western Conference at those times in the standings, I bet Houston at 17-1 to win the Western Conference crown, not thinking they actually would be there at the end of the road, just having some value in maybe a cash-out opportunity if they were to be the 2 seed or the 3 seed or host an opening round playoff series. They are going to be the 2 seed, and yet the number has gotten longer by $9. Not exactly my sharpest bet ever. So, JY, let's figure out who Houston is actually going to play in that 2-7 matchup. Let's figure out the play-in tourney teams. We've got 3 teams right now in Golden State, Memphis, and Minnesota, all at 47 and 33. The Timberwolves are in the 8th spot right now, JY, and yet the T-Wolves have the worst price of being a play-in tourney team. If you have the worst and longest price of being a play-in tourney team, that means the odds makers are expecting you to just be a playoff team as one of the top 6 seeds at this moment. Plus 550 for Minnesota. One of the reasons why the T-Wolves end out the regular season with 2 games against the Nets in the Jazz, 2 of the 6 worst teams in the association. The Grizzlies have the strongest price to be a play-in tourney team at minus 550. The Warriors at minus 105. The Nuggets plus 155. And the Clippers at plus 230. Both Denver and LA a game advantage over that log jam between 6 and 7. But if they stumble in this final weekend, they could find themselves in the play-in tournament. So, JY, come Tuesday night, Western Conference play-in tourney matchup, 7 versus 8. Who are those 2 teams?
To me, it's gonna be the Warriors and the Grizzlies. I think the Timberwolves are gonna jump and find their way to 6 because you just said it. Every other team, Ben, has to play against someone else in one of the last 2 games that have some kind of jockeying for playoff position, whereas obviously you look at Minnesota playing the Jazz and Brooklyn have nothing to play for, so they should be able to find their way through, which then could set up a very interesting matchup should it hold, which is the Lakers versus the Timberwolves. This is a team that, you got to remember, they went to the Western Conference Finals. They knocked out Denver last year. This is a team with Anthony Edwards that obviously is a big-time scorer and a big-time closer. This is a team with playoff experience. Game slows down. Rudy Gobert comes more effective. They have bench play, obviously, with guys like Naz Reid and obviously what DiVincenzo did in the playoffs for the Knicks. But there is one guy, and you know it in the tri-state area, and his name is Julius Randle. This ain't playoff Murray or bubble Murray. This is what are we getting out of Julius Randle? Because it doesn't matter what Julius Randle does in the regular season. In the playoffs, it seems like it strikes midnight and he becomes a pumpkin. Can he be a good piece that doesn't, ready for this, dominate the ball in possessions? I don't think he can because that's Ant's team. If he's right, that's an interesting matchup because I do think with the closing ability and the experience, I think that game with that series with the Lakers, Ben, it will be absolute cinema and probably will go 6 or 7 games.
That is the expected 3-6 matchup right now, despite Minnesota currently being in the 8th spot in the conference standing. So, JY, you mentioned that until we figure out what is going to happen over these 3 days to end out the regular season, you are not going to place a wager in the Western Conference odds. Let me ask you about that top team, minus 155 for Oklahoma City to win the Western Conference crown. At the very least, will the Thunder have home floor advantage in the Western Conference Finals, meaning will OKC be in the conference finals?
Ready for this? If they match up with Denver in the second round, I know this sounds wild, I'm taking Denver. I just think it's going to be an interesting playoff because I think Joker gives Hartenstein and Chet major issues. Are they engaged? That's the key.
That would be a monumental upset out west. How about the Eastern Conference up next? From the Western Conference out east, our coach J.Y. James Young still here to set the stage for the regular season finale weekend around the association. J.Y., a lot to figure out in the Western Conference, not nearly as much to figure out east. The 1 seed, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The 2 seed, by a good margin, are reigning NBA champs in the Boston Celtics. We'll talk about how top-heavy the Eastern Conference odds are in just a moment. The New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers will host an opening round playoff series, just a matter of who is the 3 seed and who is the 4. Right now, the Knicks have a game advantage over the Pacers, but Indiana won last night and New York lost. Let's start with the Knicks and what might have been an opening round playoff preview last night against Detroit. JY, the Knicks now 6-11 against the spread as an underdog this year. They were catching 3.5 points in the Motor City despite having both Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns in the starting lineup, not to mention Mikal Bridges. Are you concerned about the form of basketball the New York Knicks are playing entering the postseason?
Well, you also have to add that OG Anunoby and Josh Hart were not in the lineup last night for New York. I said this
Brunson
yesterday.
Come on now.
Now, listen, I'm going to say this, and people think I'm crazy. I don't think the Knicks want any part of Detroit, and I don't know if I want a part of Detroit either. And I've said this from day one. The Knicks' pathway to the Eastern Conference Finals, that is not through Boston. It's through Cleveland. So to me, I'm not shocked last night that the Knicks. I actually took Detroit minus the points, and I'm a Knicks fan because I don't think they would that Detroit team because the Knicks have problems with small, athletic backcourts, especially ones that are athletic and could score like Cade Cunningham. It's a bad matchup for a team with Hart and Brunson that are not great defenders. Let's be honest about it. So to me, I think the Knicks' pathway is through Cleveland. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple other guys rested tonight on a second leg of a back-to-back. Not Jalen Brunson, because Jalen Brunson had to play the games in order to get to his 65 to make All-NBA. So maybe he plays tonight, doesn't play on Sunday. So to me, I am saying something I've never thought I'd say about Tibbs. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up at 4, Indiana ends up at 3, and that will be a Knicks team that go against Milwaukee in the first round that if you watch, and we've seen, that they have dominated this far during the regular season.
I do love a sport that has at the end of the season where you're trying to get ready for the playoffs, but a player has to take precedent because he needs to play an extra couple games when it could be a detriment to the team, but it's good for your superstar player to let him go here. It's fantastic stuff. But let me ask you this question, Coach, about the New York Knicks, because we can talk all day. It's the Cavaliers, the Celtics, and everybody else. But the Knicks are intriguing because their starting lineup does have a lot of superstars. They haven't gotten it together in the regular season when they play upper echelon teams. Coach, tell me what changes in the playoffs and why people can back the Knicks with a legitimate chance to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, the one thing I have is they've only played one game with their entire arsenal, and that was the last game versus Boston, which both teams, if you watch, went for it. And if OG Anunoby probably fouls Jason Tatum or funnels him to the rim, then Knicks may get that win. Every other game versus top echelon teams, they have not had the full complement. I think Mitchell Robinson is a bigger part of the team than people want to expect because of his ability to extend possessions with offensive rebounding and his ability to protect the rim. So to me, that is where I look at where New York is dangerous. We haven't seen them whole yet. Now, do I think they're better than Boston? Absolutely not. I think Boston's the best team in the East. I don't care what the records say. Cleveland, well, we saw this story last year, 4-1, and Mitchell Robinson kicked Evan Mobley and Jared Allen's you-know-what from pillar to post the entire series, dominating him on the offensive glass. So that means tonight's game becomes interesting if New York plays everybody, which I don't think they will because I still think they're trying to, rest some guys down the stretch. So to me, that becomes interesting with the Knicks as a whole unit, which we only saw it against Boston earlier this week.
7.5 point spread in favor of the Knicks at home tonight in the Garden against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are not going to be playing everybody. That is why you see a 7.5 point number. Will it make any difference for New York that we could finally say more than likely they at least beat the Cavs or the Celtics at a point in the regular season? I guess that will be determined. JY, elsewhere around the Eastern Conference. Again, we talked about this with you on Tuesday. Right now, we already know the Eastern Conference Finals matchup based on the odds. It will be the Celtics and the Cavaliers. Cleveland will have home floor advantage, but still probably not be that favorite to win the Eastern Conference Finals and reach the NBA championship set. Is there any other team around the Eastern Conference outside of the New York Knicks that you think could even threaten a spot in the Eastern Conference Finals?
I mean, the only team you can maybe think about is Indiana because they've won 6 in a row and 8 out of their last 10 and playing their best basketball this season. But the concerning thing about Indiana is can they get stops, right? Now, if you look at last year, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Tyrese Halliburton doesn't make it past game 2. They get swept by Boston. So now there's the thing of, well, if Halliburton's there. Remember, game one was a really tight contest. I do believe it was an overtime win. I do believe by Boston or a close win. So to me, that is where you look at maybe Indiana. Milwaukee, absolutely not. Detroit, a year away. Magic, love the story early in the year. They have just self-destructed down the stretch. And then you look at those teams in the play-in, becomes interesting because I think out of all those teams, I think Miami's going to end up 8th because they've done it before. Now, they've done it losing the 7-8 game, then winning the second game, but that's a team that in a 1-game or 2-game situation, I needed to win 1 or 2, I trust them more than Chicago to win 2 in a row, and I trust them more than either Orlando or or Atlanta in that loser of the 7-8 game because I think that team has a propensity to rise to the occasion and be that 8 seed, which that makes them a little bit dangerous versus Cleveland because they did do it to Milwaukee a couple of years before.
Again, entering this final weekend of the NBA regular season, our top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference are clinched. That would be the Cleveland Cavaliers at 1, the Boston Celtics at 2. This is the reigning NBA champs who won title number 18 just a season ago. They are the odds-on favorites to win the Eastern Conference at -145. The Cavaliers, the second best number, at +185. JY, Donnie wants a WCC tournament, a Sun Belt Conference tournament type structure to the Eastern Conference postseason, where the Cavaliers and the C's are at the very bottom. It's that gauntlet to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You know what that?
Love it.
All right, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not distinguishing that. I know where he's going. I'm not distinguishing that.
The regular season in the NBA comes to a close on Sunday. 2 games left for all 30 clubs around the association with 3 days remaining. So as we get to the end of the regular season, it's not just playoff positioning. Who's in the play-in tournament? What do the postseason seeds look like? Who is hosting the opening round of the NBA playoffs? It's also the individual award races. We do that now with our coach, JY James Young, what his NBA voting ballot would look like for all of the awards on the docket in 2024-25. JY, let's start at the top. Who wins MVP this season in your mind?
Unfortunately, you have to go with chalk and you have to go with SGA. I mean, look at the stats that he's able to give right now for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder have run away with with a 14-game lead over Houston, over the 2 seed. Right now, I have SGA as the MVP. Obviously, look at his stat line and what he's done for this team in this season. His ascension to be one of the top 3 or 4 players in the world. And the fact that with number 2, Nikola Jokic winning 3 of the last 4 MVPs, there's voter fatigue, right? So if you look at voter fatigue in his stats, and his team is the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and number 1 seed overall for the playoffs, SGA is my vote for the MVP.
Rookie of the Year, Coach, who's stepping up for the young guys this year on your card?
It's everybody who stepped back, to be honest with you, because it was just no real clear runaway. But to me, it's Stephon Castle. I was a little bit concerned with Castle and his play in regards to, especially the trade for De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox gets injured. This is the kid that I think when it comes out of it, Donnie's going to have the best career out of any of these guys. Personally, love the way he's a two-way player. So for me, Stephon Castle is your Rookie of the Year.
Jared McCain for Philadelphia off to a sensational start, but a part of the season for the 76ers was injured. Dalton Knecht was on a heater midway through the year. Zach Edey flirting with it. But the top 2 guys drafted this past June in the 2024 NBA draft, not really in consideration. Let's see if Donnie remembers who those top 2 picks were. DRS, do you?
Risa Shea and who was his partner, the other one? Sar?
The French guy.
Sar.
Donnie.
There we go. Yep.
Really
off the top of my head.
Gold star for you, my friend. Yeah. You get an award for that. Zachary Risa-Shea for the Atlanta Hawks. Alex Sarr for the Washington Wizards. Defensive Player of the Year, JY, entering the All-Star break. It was going to be Victor Wembanyama by a landslide. But, of course, Wemby out for the remainder of the season. Not going to hit the games qualification for that award. So who wins DPOY that Wemby can't?
Well, this was the one that kind of was bouncing all over the place. But the guy I banked on that I loved is the Great Barrier Reef, and that's Dyson Daniels, who did a great job out coming over to Atlanta. A team, let's be honest, Ben, is not known for any kind of defense whatsoever. This kid has become what is close to a lockdown defender, long, athletic, not the But to me, and I said it for about since Wemby got hurt, Dyson Daniels, to me, is a defensive player of the year.
How about this one, though? The bomb squad up in Boston, 6th man of the year coming off that bench, able to have unlimited shooting range and unlimited shot potential here. Peyton Pritchard, Coach, tell me about that.
Oh, shot caller, shot baller.
Yes.
Listen,
Yes.
and for a while, I was saying that it was DeAndre Hunter, and then DeAndre Hunter got traded to obviously from Atlanta to Cleveland. You can't go against what Peyton Pritchard has done. This team has made more NBA threes in the history of the NBA. This guy's got more threes for anybody off the bench. He's dynamic. He can score, and he just makes that team even more dangerous. Runaway, Peyton Pritchard is the 6th man of the year.
As good friend of the early line and Celtics play-by-play announcer Drew Carter would say, Pritch better have my money. Pritch should have the 6th man of the year award around the association. All right, final two, JY. Most improved player, coach of the year. Who gets the nod?
Most improved, it's going to be Cade Cunningham. Usually, when you look at this, this is usually someone that's going to ascend to the top of the NBA. He's been healthy, and what a job that J.B. Bickerstaff has done with that. Monty who? Monty what? We don't know who that guy is anymore. Most overrated coach besides Doc Rivers in the NBA history. Lastly, coach of the year. I'm going to go against the grain here. And I know people like Kenny Atkinson. I love what Kenny's done. You can look at Mark Dagnall. To me, it's Ime Udoka. We talked about it. Number 2 seed. Team had over 31.5 wins, and he's got that team 2nd in the West. I think coach of the year, Ime Udoka of the Houston Rockets.
It's a good look, JY. Kenny Atkinson, probably the favorite for that award and what he has done this year for the Cavaliers as the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But we love the award ballot. Thank you for being here to set the stage for this weekend in the NBA, the regular season finale. He's doing so many moves. Is the shot clock going to expire?
I'm not
will
going to be
he
like
shoot the
Randall.
fade away?
He's in his triple threat. He's in the
sure you're
triple
going to
threat.
playoffs.
All right, DRS, let's set the stage for this regular season finale weekend in the NBA. As we have shared numerous times, all 30 NBA clubs in action tonight. That means a full 15-game slate on this Friday evening. Day off for everybody Saturday, and then all 30 clubs in action on regular season finale Sunday, where we are going to get, really in the opening wave, Eastern Conference versus Eastern Conference matchup to determine those postseason seeds. Same story in the Western Conference to end out Sunday as well, more so in the afternoon hours. Let's talk about what is at stake in the Western Conference to begin. The Lakers currently the 3 seed. The Nuggets, the 4, slightly in front of the Clippers, despite having the same record at 48-32. The Warriors, 47-33. The Grizzlies, 47-33. The Timberwolves, 47-33. And both the Kings and the Mavericks have already earned a play-in tourney spot. They will be the 9-10 matchup, just a matter of who hosts that 9-10 game. More than likely, it will be Sacramento. The Kings have a game advantage. So let's start, DRS, with what we have to figure out in the jumbled 3 through 6. Who is going to avoid a play-in tourney spot, who is going to be a playoff team from the very start. Again, a reminder, Oklahoma City and Houston have already clinched their playoff seeds. OKC the 1, Houston the 2 out west. The Lakers tonight will host the Houston Rockets before visiting the Portland Trailblazers to end out the regular season. The Nuggets have the Grizzlies and the Rockets. They travel to Houston. The Rockets probably going to be resting over these final 3 games, or 3 days, I should say. The Clippers visit their Northern California foes in the Kings and the Warriors. Both teams still with a ton at stake. The Warriors visit the Trailblazers tonight before hosting the Clippers on Sunday. That's going to be a huge game, the Dubs and the Clips on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, a lot of them. I look at the first 2 teams listed, the Lakers, Nuggets. I expect sweeps out of both of them. Houston doesn't matter, doesn't care. Maybe it's Los Angeles. Right. They might get excited. Lakers win that game. They need that game. Same thing with Portland if they need that game on Sunday, but also changes where we're talking about Friday, Sunday. Some of these games might not mean anything on Sunday, and that could drastically change, but we're just anticipating that these teams will still be in the market, let's just say, for seeding purposes, and nothing can change at this point. Nuggets, again, I expect Memphis and Houston. The Clippers are interesting. They'll beat Sacramento tonight because, again, Sacramento already has it wrapped up. There's no reason for them to expend any more energy and get any injuries because they're going to have a quicker turnaround time playing in the play-in than, let's just say, the Clippers would have at that point. So that's my expectations on the first 3. Warriors, they'll beat Portland, and then who knows if the Clippers need that game Sunday, same exact thing. But I think it's pretty paint by numbers on what's going to happen this weekend.
Yeah, the Kings do need tonight technically, as they are trying to still play for home court advantage in that 9-10 game. The Kings would not be a favorite even at full strength with everything on the line against the Clips, as we are seeing LA a 6.5-point favorite. And the Clippers have been playing some sensational basketball down this home stretch. DRS, as it gets really interesting, though, to your point about the Lakers, they're a 10.5-point home favorite tonight against Houston. We do not expect the Rockets to be at full strength. The Nuggets, a 7-point home favorite tonight against Memphis. The difficult thing for both the Grizz and the T-Wolves, they played last night. They are on the second leg of a back-to-back in a change of destination. Minnesota returns home. They get to host the Nets. Cool. The Grizzlies have to now go on the road to take on the Nuggets and how well the Nuggets perform. They won their first game without Michael Malone by 8 a couple of nights ago. They're a 7-point favorite tonight against those Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, I think they win tonight. And also, again, it's not that Memphis doesn't need the game. It's just I don't like what I see of Memphis down the stretch, back-to-back performances here. Now you're going to take a look at them playing at elevation. The Nuggets are rested. Another extra couple days to get used to a new coaching change here, a new general manager change in the organization, and maybe you can still ride off those vibes being high. But it's a lot different than saying who's going to win and who's going to cover, because some of these lines are completely out of whack. Like, yeah, Lakers should easily beat Houston. Well, yeah, they might beat them, but they don't care if they win by 1 or 2 points as long as they get the victory, as opposed to covering the spreads that they have. So those things will change. But for me, I think the Clippers should have an easy time with Memphis tonight. I really do.
Well, it's going to be the Nuggets and the Grizzlies tonight. Memphis did have their 3-game win streak snapped by Minnesota last night. The Grizz are an underdog, right? 7-point dog at altitude against Denver. The the Grizzlies have not covered in any of their 9 games booked as an underdog since the All-Star break. 2 teams that are now playing with interim head coaches. Denver did snap their own 4-game slide against the Kings on Tuesday with a win as a 4.5-point favorite, even covering that number. The Clippers, DRS, have been playing some great basketball, but they do have 2 road games in Northern California to end. 6.5-point favorite tonight against the Kings. I assume you expect LA to win that game. How about Golden State? They're on the road tonight against a really good Portland team in terms of covering numbers, and the Blazers are getting 14. Golden State was a 17.5-point favorite on Tuesday. They lost at the buzzer against former teammate Harrison Barnes in the San Antonio Spurs, a game the Dubs could ill afford to lose. They did cough up as a hefty favorite. They're a 14-point favorite tonight in the Rose City.
Yeah, they should win pretty easy in that game. Again, Portland just wrapping up the season. Don't get the young guys injured here. Head to the ping pong balls and start to get after it. So when you have a team that needs to win a game, that it's a veteran-laden team and playing good basketball over the past month and a half after the trade deadline, that should be a victory. But again, you still got to cover 14. It's not we're asking you, hey, plus money number on Golden State to win this game. Which way are you going? So that's where the tough part comes in.
The Clippers have won 6 straight. They covered in their most recent. LA started out post-All-Star break, dropping 6 of their first 7. They have won 16 of 19 since. The Clippers playing really good basketball, approaching the playoffs. Now the Eastern Conference. What's at stake the final weekend? Next. From the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference, what is at stake over these final 3 days and 2 games remaining for all 30 NBA clubs here to end out the regular season finale weekend. 15 teams out in the Eastern Conference, and Donnie, as we have shared, much like the Western Conference, everything locked up in the top 2 spots. Cleveland, the 1 seed, the reigning NBA champs, Boston, will be the 2 seed. What is unlike the Western Conference, so much at stake everywhere else, 3 through 8, here in the Eastern Conference, it's pretty set in stone. All the play-in tourney teams firmly in their spot. We might have to figure out who has home floor advantage for a couple of the games, at least in that 9-10 matchup. And technically, we could see the Bulls elevate to the 8 seed and the Hawks fall to that 9-10 game. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The Knicks and the Pacers will host the opening round of the postseason, but will the Knicks be the 3 seed? Or will that be Indiana? We start with the Knicks. 7.5-point home favorite tonight, DRS, against the Cleveland Cavaliers before they end across town and across the East River in Brooklyn against the Nets. The Pacers at home hosting Orlando tonight. Second leg of a back-to-back. They visit Cleveland to end out the regular season. The Pacers know better than anybody The Cavs not really trying down the home stretch, resting their stars, and yet Cleveland nearly won last night outright as a 9.5-point dog against Indiana as the Pacers were trying to lock up a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks have won 6 in a row. They visit Detroit tonight. That's a really compelling matchup. In fact, Milwaukee and Detroit, their final 2 games over these next 3 days against one another.
I'll tell you what the interesting one, though, is the Knicks and the Cleveland game. The reason I bring that up is you look at the back-to-backs. Like, Cleveland didn't really play anybody yesterday. Are they just going to run their backups again on a back-to-back and just go out there? Yeah. Because you don't want to rest your players too long. Because understand this, like, Cleveland's not in the play-in round games. So your starter's just going to be iced for 8 to 9 days, possibly, I guess, before you get after it and have your own playoff round. So if I'm looking and saying, you know what, outside the box thinking, am I wrong for thinking that the majority of the starters play tonight for the Cleveland because you have to play? It's a good tune-up, and you can't sit your players all that long. And the Knicks also coming off of a back-to-back at the same time. I really like Cleveland tonight, to be honest. I'm just playing devil's advocate on what I think that starting lineup is going to be.
Listen, even if it is DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome, they might have a chance tonight. The Cavaliers 5-1 against the spread as an underdog. Yeah, second leg of a road back-to-back for Cleveland. We shall see, though, Donnie. And there's also a thought, at least as our coach JY presented, the New York Knicks might not want that 3 seed. They might not want to play the Pistons in the opening round and might not want to visit the Boston Celtics in round number 2. The Knicks have a game advantage over the Pacers. I agree. I still think the Knicks are going to be the 3 seed, at least in my estimation. And New York is a 7-point home favorite tonight. Monitor that number. The Knicks on the second leg of a back-to-back, changing destination. Now, Tom Thibodeau not exactly the head coach you expect to take advice from load management or rest players. Just throwing it out there, DRS.
By the way, like, understand this. If I'm James Dolan, I walk into a room and say, hey, by the way, we want to avoid the Pistons. I go, last time I checked, like, the Pistons aren't the best team in the NBA. That's what we're trying to do here. So if the Knicks' biggest issue is the Pistons at the 6th seed, just go home early for the playoffs, give everybody the rest, and don't get injured and have a good offseason at this point right now. So that's an interesting one nonetheless. But if we are looking at some of the other options, per se, this weekend, you know what the good options are? Sixers getting blasted in back-to-back games because other teams need that there. So send them off in style to the ping pong balls, baby.
And DRS, when you look at Milwaukee and Detroit, the Bucks the 5 seed, the Pistons the 6 seed. Could Detroit catch Milwaukee in the standings? Yes, but they would split then their 4-game season series between the two. The Pistons trail by 2 games right now. Detroit, a home favorite tonight in the Motor City against Milwaukee. Both teams in action on Thursday night as well. Here's how the play-in tourney looks, just so you know. Orlando has won 4 in a row. 2-game advantage over the Hawks. They visit the Pacers and the Hawks for a game that will determine home floor advantage, potentially in the 7-8 matchup. The Bulls on a heater. They get the Wizards and the Sixers. They are going to be strong favorites in both of those games. Chicago only trails Atlanta by a game. They have a game advantage over the Heat. We're just trying to figure out a couple of the play-in tourney seeding, DRS, 8 through 10.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens in that. And again, they're just food for fodder for the teams that they're going to play. 4 bad teams are into the playoffs. So the NBA, who in the Western Conference, like, hey, you know what? This extra playing round makes sense. You know what? Make me commissioner again. No playing rounds ever for the Eastern Conference because those teams are an abomination.
I do kind of think, and I don't know if these odds will come out hopefully by the end of the regular season, I think the Bulls are going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to earn the 8th seed in some form or fashion. But we'll talk about that next week. Hour number 3 is here next with a Masters update to start the hour. The final weekend of the NBA's regular season. All 15 games that we have tonight means all 30 NBA teams in action on this Friday. Day off tomorrow, Saturday. Everybody in action for regular season finale Sunday as well. DRS, we have set the stage for what is at stake. Nuggets, Grizzlies tonight. Memphis, minus 550 to be a play-in tourney team because of their difficult schedule to end out their final 2 games. They're a 7-point road underdog tonight at altitude. The Nuggets still in the hunt for the 3 seed, but really just trying to hold off the Clippers, if at all possible, to earn a top 4 seed and host the opening round of the postseason. Of course, both the Grizzlies and the Nuggets will face off tonight, both teams with interim head coaches. Let's get out to Northern California. California's capital, the Kings playing host to the LA Clippers. The Clippers, a 6.5-point road favorite. The Clippers have won 6 consecutive games. The Clippers, after dropping 6 of their first 7 following the All-Star break, have won 16 of their next 19 to reach this stage. Does LA make it 7 in a row tonight over Sacramento?
7 for 7, baby. Let's go in this one. You take a look at that opening number at 6, now move to 6.5. I completely agree with it. That total 227.5 now down to 226.5 if we're just reading between the lines. And you're right. Sacramento still does have something to play for, but certainly clinch in that environment. Bigger things to play for me with the Clippers, and the better team overall is the Los Angeles Clippers. They're healthy. They're full go tonight. If I think they win this game, I'm going to take them to cover that 6.5 points here tonight. So let's do it. Go Clips.
DRS, I do agree. The Kings right now, a game lead over Dallas. Both teams are playing tourney teams, and both will be in that 9-10 matchup more than likely. Sacramento at this moment trying to hold on to home floor advantage for that 9-10 game to win it and then have a chance of being the 8th seed in the postseason. Dallas, however, 12.5-point home favorite tonight against the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are a great cover team, second best cover team this year in the association, who has often been booked as a dog. Probably not going to win that game outright. Big one for the Warriors, who currently are in the 6th spot out of the play-in tournament, and they are a road favorite tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers before a difficult matchup to end the regular season against the LA Clippers on Sunday afternoon. Golden State tonight, 14-point road favorite against the Portland Trail Blazers. Over-under stands at 225 and a hook. Golden State was a 17.5-point home favorite earlier this week against the Spurs, who have nothing to play for without Victor Wembanyama, without De'Aaron Fox, and it was Harrison Barnes beating Golden State at the buzzer. Can Golden State figure it out tonight as a hefty favorite in Portland?
They'll win. 12.5 line at the opening number here in New Jersey at FanDuel. 14s now. Who knows? Some other outlets also showing Ben 14.5, so getting higher and higher. They'll win this basketball game. But you know where I probably would focus more is not laying the side itself, but that total, which is dropping, and I agree. Overnight, 227 at the opening numbers. You see on that graphic, it's 225.5. If I do think the Warriors win and mean business tonight, that means shutting the Trailblazers down on offense. So instead of laying the 14 points, I'm more confident that, yes, the Warriors might be win by 14 points, but I'm not so sure Portland gets over 100 points tonight with Golden State's defensive effort, knowing about that last performance and against that spread that they were supposed to easily cover and win. They lost that late. Give me a good defensive performance in this game. I agree with the buy down to 225.5.
The Dubs still 21-7 straight up since Jimmy Butler's first game in a Warriors uniform. Portland 37-28-1 against the spread, booked as an underdog frequently this year. That's 66 games so far of their 80. It's a large number. Golden State should win comfortably. Another double-digit spread late night in Los Angeles. The Lakers hosting the Rockets. Could be our Western Conference semifinals matchup if the Lakers, with a win tonight, clinch the 3 seed and both teams win in the opening round, as Houston has clinched the 2 seed. Going to look very different, though, by the time we get to the postseason, as Houston really resting their starters and key contributors down this final stretch of the NBA regular season in its final few days. 10-point spread in favor of LA. Emotional win for the Lakers earlier this week in Dallas. Can they bring it back home tonight to LA to clinch the 3 seed?
Yeah, I think the Lakers do win, but again, if you handicap these games in the morning, you tell me again the Rockets, the same way I talked about the Cavaliers earlier in the show, it's like we can't just shut it down for a week and a half and then expect to just turn it back on. You have to play your guys and get them used to it, and that doesn't mean you have to play them 40 minutes, but let's just say the Rockets have their starters in there for the majority of the game. They'll cover the 10 points, but also I wouldn't want to bet early in the morning the Rockets and they say, you know what? We are totally going to rest. We're going to play some guys on Sunday, and that'll be that. Because then the Lakers might be winning 15 to 20 points at the break as opposed to the game. So this is one to keep an eye on. But for me, again, if we're not playing a lot of starters, meaningful game for the Lakers, they'll be locked in on defense. Maybe that also 225.5, which is the total, stays under as well for me between Houston and L.A.
I swear I saw somewhere the magic number for the Lakers to clinch that 3 seed was 1. Yeah. Now I'm getting conflicting reports, but again, it would help them a ton. It is. So the Lakers, as a double-digit favorite tonight, will clinch the 3 seed with a victory over Houston. That's the action in a very jam-packed Western Conference. Still a lot to figure out. Denver and the Clippers trying to win games to stay out of the play-in tournament. Same for Golden State. Minnesota, a very easy stretch against both Brooklyn and Utah to end the regular season. The T-Wolves, despite being the 8th seed right now, DRS, not expected to be in the play-in tournament. We'll see what happens by the time we return on Monday. Let's get out to the Eastern Conference. The Knicks, 7-point home favorite tonight inside the Garden against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, 7-point spread. I do wonder how this game will look tonight by the time we get the tip inside MSG. Will the Cavs have any of the regular starters out there? What about New York? Might the Knicks elect to rest a couple of people? Donnie, what do you think this game looks like inside the Mecca tonight?
Again, that's going to be the issue waiting till game time. But also, I think a lot of people have the same concept as me. That line overnight was minus 11.5, both on back-to-backs. But again, Cleveland didn't. It'd be one thing if Cleveland's like, okay, we're going to play half our starters last night, half tonight. It's like, okay, I get a good read on it. Like, Cleveland basically played nobody yesterday. And I doubt they just say, yeah, had some fun backups, go out there again and play 40 minutes in the starting lineup. Like, no, this might have been that game they circled, say, this is the get-right game for us. We'll rest again on Sunday, then we'll be off to the playoffs. Because that 11.5 has now turned into -7 across the board and a total of 226.5. Let me see who the starters are, because I guarantee you see a full Cleveland Cavaliers roster tonight, even though you know they only might get one half. That line's coming down even more from the 7.
And can the Knicks finally beat one of the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference? 0-7 straight up against both the Cavs and the Celtics. It might not be Cleveland at full strength, but it could be used as a rallying cry for the Knicks. DRS, have a great weekend. Enjoy the money line, my friend. More on the early line up next here on SportsGrid.